Entering the Pat Mayo Experience.
Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience live Canadian Open chat preview. Start loading your questions into the chat right now. As you can see, I am not in the regular Pat Mayo Experience studios. I am in what you would like to call the DraftKings Boston studios. So start loading up the chat with all of your questions. The one benefit to me being here right now is not just to tell you about fantasynational.com, which you should become a member of, I'm not going to lie to you, or checking out the previous shows, or entering all the draws, all that fun stuff, but Reid Fowler in studio with me.
I know, this is fantastic. I'm a little sad though that you're not at your Open championship here, the Canadian Open. I think Feinberg is potentially going to be there, right?
Feinberg might be there today, for all I know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this is exciting. I mean, the field is actually pretty decent. We got some guys out here, and
well, the final time slot ever for the Canadian Open in this spot, at least following the Open Championship, strongest field it's probably ever had since like Tiger used to come.
Yeah, you mentioned it too,
and it wasn't even in that time slot then.
Yeah, and Glen Abbey is probably the last time, and it's going to change. It's going to change. Good thing though, like you mentioned it earlier, we have a lot of data from this course. Obviously, it's changed from time to time, but should be an interesting one. We got some stars in here, a lot of scrubs, but
not only a lot of scrubs, a lot of Canadian players who are I don't want to say by definition scrubs, but like we're not just talking about like Nick Taylor here. We're Jared Dutois is in the field. Adam Svensson. Mike Weir, the scrubbiest of all Canadian players.
Scrubbiest.
He is here.
And he's probably the best Canadian ever, like the last decade.
He's the best Canadian golfer of all time. Exactly. I don't want to take that away from Mike Weir, but it's been a while.
Yeah, Ulrich should be in this field, and I want to roster him.
I would roster Jeff Ulrich if he was here. All right, let's get straight to your questions right away. Like I mentioned again, hit the chat, give the episode a like, and if you don't want to watch the entire thing, download it on demand on the iTunes feed, Stitcher feed, audio feed, wherever you want on demand after the fact. First one from Jeff. What do you guys think about Cameron Champ? Big time bomber. May play him in one and done as a sleeper. Here's the thing about Cameron Champ. I don't think he's going to be so much of a sleeper.
Yeah.
6 consecutive top 11s on the Web.com tour. He was the betting favorite on the Web.com event this week before getting the sponsor's exemption in. We know he's a bomber. Playing hot fire right now. He has better odds to win this tournament than Gary Woodland does. His odds right now are the same as Sergio Garcia's.
Well, and that's the way we kind of think here, right? Web.com, we see like birdie fests. That's what these tournaments are. This is what we want to see. Most eagles made, most birdies made in the top 50 if you look at some of these stat models. So yeah, Cameron Champ, and what we see him priced at, right, in that low 7s, a Web.com guy coming over on a PGA tour. We don't see him potentially at that price. So yeah, I don't think he's much of a sleeper. I think he's a solid play, but be ready to roster him pretty much.
He's a really good value, is the one thing. I don't think he'll crack double digits in terms of ownership just because there's not enough people who actually do know who he is. However, I think you're going to see a lot of sharp people on him because it's easier to play him on DraftKings than bet him this week. No one wants to bet him 40 to 1. Like, that's so ridiculous. I'm actually fading him fully. Like, well, let's be real here. The guy's made, what, one cut on the PGA? Has he even made a cut on the PGA Tour? I remember I played him back at, I want to say Valero, I think it was. Like, he missed the cut at Shell. I think he made the cut at Valero. Here, let's just look up everything he's doing. Yeah, made the cut at Valero, came T73, missed at Genesis, missed at RSM, missed at Safeway, missed at OHL. And Safeway is like a bomber's track as well. Right. So it's nice to see that he's playing so much better on the Web.com tour, but this is the big leagues now, pal.
I know.
Sorry, Champ.
I know. Well, another guy, Fabian Gomez. There's some guys down there that we've seen on the Web.com, we've seen play well that I'd rather roster. But Cam Champ will make some of my lineups just because I want to play the champ. He's got a great last name.
He does. It's the other guys around that area that I just happen to like a little bit more, like Burgoon, Werner, and Ryder are all $100 more. Like, you can play those guys if you want to play like James Hahn. Hahn!
Oh, yes.
I love James Hahn this week. He's the exact same price. Seamus Power is the same price, another guy that I'm playing. So Cameron Champ didn't make the final cut. I don't think he's a bad play by any means, but it's not for me.
Yep.
Next question from Brian. My head says Svensson. My heart says Big Norm. Both min-price. Take the Canadian or take the Panda. Thanks for the shows.
You got to take the Panda. I mean,
you say that. I'm only playing one of them, and I did play Svensson.
Yeah.
Ulrich talked me into Svensson. I know absolutely nothing about him. Ulrich's like, hey, he's won on the Web.com tour. I talked to my buddy. I was actually at a dinner party last night with a high-ranking Canadian amateur player who knows all, like, it was good to talk to him because he actually knows all these guys. I was like, what's his game? He's like, guy bombs it. I was like, well, that's good enough for me.
I mean, if the insider information, then yeah, absolutely. But I think Big Norm, I think this is a spot for him that you can take. The min price, look, you're rostering them like in what, 2 lineups out of 20 potentially, or just one.
I think that's what it is. Two out of 20.
Yeah, exactly.
2 out of 25. Sorry, is what I have.
Right, and so your exposure to any one of these guys is minimal. So go with your heart. If you want to go with Svensson, like you were saying, if he bombs it off the tee, that's the narrative.
Svensson. Call him Henrik, and he's looking a lot better all of a sudden.
Exactly, just a change of consonant. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's going to be Big Norm just because I've seen him
miss cuts.
I've seen him miss cuts, so I've seen him a little bit more. So
the thing is, you know that Big Norm is going to have like overinflated ownership. Not that it's going to be like high, but it'll be like 4%, where everyone else in the whole range is like 0.1%.
Yeah.
I think if you want to get any exposure to Big Norm, at the min price, if you do have like the gut feeling to go with it, go with it. But like a top 20 bet's probably a much better idea.
Well, 6 of 6, this tournament you're going to need it, right? So with that being said. Svensson might give you more cut equity, but I mean, you're really splitting
hairs. Either of them give you cut equity?
You're splitting hairs down there.
Yeah.
So.
Clark asks, how much Sink is too much Sink? I actually didn't play Sink. Sink did it for me last week. He came through. Not that it really mattered because the rest of my picks were horrendous. But Stuart Sink made the cut.
Stu Manji, I mean,
He got through at 6,600. He's a really good price. He actually rates out really highly in my model this week. But again, it came to a point where I was just trying to condense my core down in that range. So the names that I've already given out are ones that I'm playing instead. And even when we get into like the Sink range, I believe he is what, 70? He's 7,100.
Yeah.
So even like someone as high as like JJ Spawn up on that list, I just decided to go that route instead. And it all just came down to who were the last guys you're chopping out of your lineups. Stuart Sink, for me, fell by the wayside, but just look at his numbers. Like, ball striking was so big for me this week, and over the past 24 rounds, rates inside the top 10. I mean, I wouldn't say you can't go wrong with Stuart Sink, but he's been playing exceptionally well.
Yeah, and fatigue is not something that I necessarily bake into. We saw that kind of with Rory Sabbatini earlier this season.
He hit the wall.
He hit the wall. Sink has been playing really well, and what's crazy, if you look at Fantasy National for the last 24 rounds, he's #1 in Eagles gained, which is crazy. It is skewed.
I like,
right?
It's funny. That's one great thing about the mixed condition model.
Exactly.
On Fantasy National, like Eagles gained over a shorter sample can correlate a lot with putting, for one thing. Now, it does give you a good sense of who's going for the green, but taking Eagles gained over a really long, like 100-round sample, I think may give you a better idea who the actual like Eagle makers in the field, or at least the potential for Eagle makers in the field are. Yeah,
and then those guys like you were talking about, Burgoon's down there, Connors. That narrative to me fits what I want to do. I want to get these guys who can score. And it's not to say Sink can't score. I mean, we've seen him obviously at hard courses. We've seen him in the past few tournaments do really well. It's just for me at that price range, I'd rather fit those other guys in and maybe take a flyer on another guy like Jim Furyk.
So for I'd much rather play Stuart Sink than Jim Furyk this week. Projected ownership on Harold, Varner III, and Stumanji Sink. Sink a nice pivot off of Varner. The pivot I used in that range was Nick Watney. I just think skill-wise and stat-wise, he matches up really well with this course. And James Hahn going the other way. With Varner at 7,100, I have him projected for around 20% ownership. Being he's the highest owned guy like below $10,000, below $9,000, realistically. So Sink I have coming in at around 12%. So that could be one move, but if you just really want to take away ownership, like Hollywood Hoagie, 1%. If you look at like even Corey Connors, who's someone that we do like he's not coming in with huge ownership. James Hahn this week, at 5%.
Yeah, I mean
those are easier pivots, right?
Right, exactly. Like we talked about earlier, some guys in that range that we like a little bit more. Ben Crane is someone that I just never know what to do. I haven't figured him out.
I like him when he's lower in price.
Yeah, exactly.
When he's like 6,600, be like, yeah, I could use some Ben Crane at 66.
Right. But HV3 sticks, I mean, if I can give him that nickname.
I'm using them.
Yeah, exactly, of course. And
oh no, it's not HV3 sticks. It's Big Harry V.
But I mean, for him, he's one of those guys that we saw this with Paul Casey at I think the U.S. Open, where that price doesn't meet what he's currently doing. At 7,100, Varner's been, in the top leaderboards in the past few tournaments. Now, grain of salt, right? He's not playing against bigger or stronger fields, but still, at 7,100, you've got a roster. And that's why he's there. That's why he's going to be projected at 20% ownership.
Yeah, it just seems too low. And a lot of this had to do with, because of the stupid Barbasol, that odds didn't get released. And so the DraftKings pricing doesn't mirror the odds like it normally does. They kind of came out independently. So we're seeing a lot of these values, like just straight down the board. You're seeing all the ownership concentrated in the same places in the $7,000 area because there's like 4 or 5 excellent values. Like Champ is a really good value.
Yeah.
Like just to go back to him, but I don't want to play every one of the good values.
Yeah, you have
I'll
to.
shrink down the core a little bit because I do want to play Varner. I do want to play Burgoon. They're both projected at over 17%.
Yep.
JJ Spawn, I really like. I always like JJ Spawn, so you really can't take my word on that one. But he's like 12% owned down here. Like Sink is a really good price.
Dahmen.
Dahmen's the other one, and Chris Kirk is another one as well. Keith Mitchell, I have projected 18%. Like in this field, he should be like $8,300.
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
$7,400.
Right, and if you're going with that stars and scrubs, you're going to be rostering a lot of these guys down here. So if you're going overweight on DJ, if you're hitting the 9K range like I am quite a bit, you're going to have to roster these guys. And again, you want to differentiate yourself because you don't want to take all the chalk, right? So condense your core at the top or wherever you want to condense your core, and then look at these guys down here. Like you said, there's a Nick Watney. So if you don't want to play that chalk down there and you want to differentiate yourself a little bit more in this range and take that scattered approach that we always talk about, you can, because there's a lot of guys that are probably mispriced.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Benjamin Sisko, captain of DS9, asks, who is the best player underneath $7,000 to me? It's Tom Lovelady at $6,800.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, there is some fear that he gained a lot of his strokes around the green. And if you're doing that this week, although he was able to parlay that to -22 at the Barbasol, so I wouldn't be too concerned. Yeah. But he drives it a mile. If we're really sorting on driving distance this week, which I am for sure, especially with thunderstorms Thursday and Friday in Toronto. So it's going to soften up the course. The shorter hitters aren't going to get quite their role. So I think making bomber stacks is the way to go. I think the only two other guys underneath $7,000 I'm using, I'm playing the course history angle and the little bit of recent form with Stevie Wheatcroft.
Oh, God.
It doesn't make me feel good at $6,500. I'm playing Lonto for sure. I like.
Oh,
it's Lovelady or it's Lonto.
Yeah.
Or Svensson, I guess.
What's your boy, Johnny Question Marks?
I don't like him here.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like a Johnny Question Marks type of course.
Yeah, I mean, the par 4 scoring in that distance, that 400
But
to 450.
he needs to score on the par 5, too.
Yeah, and that's where you were talking about it earlier with Feinberg, is like you have to, these guys have to be elite or have to be close to pretty elite when it comes to the shorter hitters hitting those approach shots in. So if you're taking a Johnny Question Marks, if you're taking some of these guys that aren't the Loveladies and the Lontos, then you're going to have to find these guys. I starred Johnny Question Marks just in case I want to fit him in.
Just to remind you that he's there.
Just to remind me that he's there. But yeah, I mean, Cameron Percy was another one. And he doesn't.
He's been playing a little bit better.
He's been playing better. He doesn't hit it too far. Again, taking it all with a grain of salt on the web.com. But yeah, I would say Lovelady is the best.
Yeah, Lovelady and Lonto, and after that, partial shares of Wheatcroft and Svensson for me.
Yeah.
Just down in that area. I really tried to stick to that low 7K range.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really good.
Oh, yeah.
Like the quality of player that you're getting in the low, even if it's Sink or even the guys that or Champ and the guys that we didn't really say that we're using per se.
Yeah.
But over those 6K guys, there is a marked difference between them in terms of tiering.
Yeah.
C-Mac Attack. Thoughts on JB Holmes and Hunter Mahan? I'm using JB Holmes. I am not using Hunter Mahan, although he was a 36-hole leader here once, and the game is coming back. Apparently, Ace Hardware dropped him, so we need to make some bucks again.
Yeah.
Just not for me, but he's a good price, if nothing else.
Yeah, he's a Gruden grinder. I mean, this guy's been playing. I mean, he's been trying to get. He was one of the top golfers for what, 4 or 5 years ago,
or more.
Or more, yeah. So obviously the game is there. He can play. It takes a long time to sustain a career on the PGA Tour, but I'm not playing any Hunter. JB Holmes, you like him, right? You like him here at this because he can hit the ball a mile, because he has that left to right type of ball flight, and that's what Nicklaus courses do cater towards. So I do like JB Holmes. Outside of that, he can, off the tee, he
just pounds it.
He just pounds it,
and he's really good from that 400 to 450 range as well. And you look at the overall yardage of the course at Glen Abbey, it's like 72.53, I think is what it is. Mm-hmm. But there's 4 par 5s. This is a really short course when you really think about it.
Right, and this is the first par 72 that we've gotten
in ages.
So you would think that they would lengthen it out, but all of these par 5s, and we talked about it earlier, they're reachable in 2. So if you can get it there in 2 and put a putter together.
Yeah, and for guys like JB, that's why I think that the 400 to 450 yard really does correlate well, even with the par 5s at Glen Abbey, because for the deeper hitters like your Dustins, your Brooks, your JB Holmes, and even Lovelady and Champ and these guys, they're going to hit driver off the tee and flick a wedge into these par 4s. They're also doing that to the par 5s as well.
Exactly.
So it's just kind of nuts when you look at it. Steven asks, an hour later, does Benny put the Anne in Canada? Despite his lack of appreciation for the culture in UK, is Bubba Twatson Happy to be in Canada. Bubba's wife is Canadian. Always shows up to the Canadian Open.
Yeah.
I love Bubba this week. I think he's going to win. So,
yeah. You got to listen. I mean, he's a Bubba whisperer. I mean, you got to listen to whenever Mayo plays Bubba, right? I mean, you got to listen.
He's a great price this week on DK2. But Ben Allen is someone who's going to be incredibly highly owned, and I am playing him anyway.
Yeah.
He's another one of these mispriced guys. But unlike the rookies like your Domans and your Mitchells and those types, Ben Allen's a real player.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Wes Bryan's $8,400. Ben On is $7,800. Like, that doesn't quite correlate. Finau, I just use very minimal shares just so I don't have FOMO with him. But like, I'm not big on Finau.
I'm like, he's outside of Dustin and I think, yeah, Dustin's probably the only one that I have more of like
than Finau.
Finau's my. Well, I mean, like you said, we talked about it. We don't have to beat a dead horse. He's a bomber, right? He's birdie or better gained. Obviously, he's top 5 in the last 24 rounds. And he's a guy that's actually putting decently well. So I'm taking Finau. I'm taking a ton of shares of Finau, but I'm also taking Bubba as well. So I have to make a stance in that 9K range because there's a lot of guys like Kuchar and some of these other guys that I really do like. Joaquin Niemann is someone that I'm fading, which I'm probably going to regret.
That's tough.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to make a stance, right? You can't play everyone. We talk about it all the time. So those are some of the guys that I'm fading in that 9K range.
All right. Any love for Steve Stricker? That comes from Owen, not for me.
No. I mean, he's right by JB in that price range, and I'd rather take the Bombers.
All right. Greg asks, ownership on Fleetwood and Brooks. Looking at it right now, Brooks around 17%, Fleetwood around 12%.
Yeah, Fleetwood is interesting, right? I mean, when you look at the top there, you would think, I mean, obviously Fleetwood's going to get the depressed ownership of the two guys. Do you full fade of Fleetwood because those other two guys are there and you like the 9K range?
I wanted to play Dustin, so I used him. So it came down to me. Like I said, I've played very minimal shares of Finau. Like, I'm underweight on Finau. I really should have just faded him, but I didn't have the heart to do it. Fleetwood, I did full fade only because I wanted to play some Sergio, who I have projected to come in at like 5%. Yeah. And I decided to take a stand on Sergio, knowing that if he wins, I'm looking pretty good here this week.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing, right? It's all game theory with Sergio because he's missed like 5 of 6 cuts. And then the players where he actually made the cut, he finished 70th. Obviously, he's done a little bit better in the stats. We're not going to see it here on Fantasy National because of him playing over the Euro Tour before the Open. But yeah, I mean, if you're getting one of the elite players at sub 10%, at 5% potentially, absolutely.
You take the chance. And I know his form hasn't been great.
No, it hasn't.
But you take the chance on talent in this situation and hope that it just comes through.
Yeah. So same with me. I faded Brooks as well, which is another hard one because, again, he's a bomber that can flick wedges into it.
That's why I ended up going with Brooks over Fleetwood, just because of the skill set that won. And listen, if Tommy comes out and shoots 61 on Thursday, I'll be like, oh, yeah, should have saw that one coming. But
which he's capable of. But.
Yeah, you can't win them all.
Yeah.
Trevor asks, Sink and Harold Varner or Dahmen/Mitchell and Lovelady?
Ooh.
I like Dahmen and Mitchell and Lovelady, but I like Harold Varner the best out of all those guys. So I guess I'd go Sink and Harold Varner the third.
Yeah, I think if you're going game theory, or if you want to
just take the two best guys.
Take the two best guys.
And Varner's my favorite, so that wins out for me.
Yeah.
There. On or Kirk? I would go with Benny On.
That's a tough one. I think I'd go with Kirk.
You just roll it with Kirk?
I roll it with Kirk. I'm getting a little cheaper because obviously I want to play all the guys in the 9K range, so I'm going to go with Kirk there.
So let's see. I'm curious to know what the ownership is between them right now. Ben On coming around 14, Kirk coming in around 17.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're getting the price discount with Kirk. He's over the past 2 tournaments gaining an average of 7.4 strokes gained on approach. It's not bad.
Yeah, but in terms of talent, Benny Ann is probably better.
Who's won more on the PGA Tour? That answer would be Chris Kirk.
It's true. Yeah.
So they're both talented players, but you would always like sort of like the young up and comer type guy like Benny On. Yeah. But I think you can play them both.
Yeah,
you'll probably be fine. Is this a hot fire Dylon Mayo week? I certainly hope not, because I'm not playing any.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, we saw him. I think everyone says a little buyer's remorse after we saw him play really well at the U.S. Open, but not for me.
Okay. No. Kyle says, Sned, even though his form isn't great, I mean, he had a really bad round at the British Open before that. The reason people used him at the British Open because the form was starting to come back in. He's inconsistent, although he has always played really well at this course. I'm using him only because I saw the ownership come in, and I was thoroughly surprised that he was going to be like 8% owned.
Yeah.
And I started looking at it, it's like, I have Charlie Hoffman there, I have JB Holmes, I'm using a little bit of Keegan, but I dialed back a lot of the Keegan shares and put them onto Snedeker at a slightly more elevated price. Solely because I know that we talk about this talent stuff. He's properly priced. In fact, he might be a bit overpriced, but it is killing his ownership here. And it's almost the same with Kisner. Out of 25 teams, I use 3 Kisner teams. No faith in Kisner. The guy's good. He just came second at the British Open. And he's going to be 2% owned this week? Like, maybe he got some good vibes going. Who knows? Maybe he's got the game back where it needs to be. But I think that these guys are talented enough that if you wanted to use them in a low percentage of your lineups, they do have significant upside. And I think that is worth something.
Yeah, and if you're playing GPPs, I think Snedeker is a fine pivot off of a guy like Hoffman, who I think is going to come in pretty heavily owned just because of his course history here. And he did this last year as well, where he played well in the Open Championship and then followed it up with a pretty good finish here at the RBC Canadian. So in Chess and Hadley, if you're playing Hadley, obviously he withdrew. Snedeker's right there. No one's playing Hadwin, except for a few guys that we know that we might not name on the show.
Axel.
So in that sense, Snedeker is a fine play. You're not going to see the stats come through for Sneds, but he's a fine talent. He's a fantastic player.
Would you use Billy Horschel and ride some form?
No.
You're not using Billy Ho?
No, Billy Ho. I started him like on Monday, and then I saw him finish, and like I just don't like Billy Ho coming off a good tournament.
I mean,
which is weird.
Sometimes you can ride some form with Billy Horschel. Always a better putter on bent. The putter's been just fire, basically all season long. He's been an excellent putter. And listen, 3 straight tournaments of positive strokes gained in terms of approach. He's gained strokes off the tee, I think, in 17 consecutive tournaments, coming off 17th and to second last few times out. I get it. And listen, I just made a case for Snedeker, who's in worse form, although I think the talent is more because he's going to come in like 6 to 8%. Billy Horschel's going to come in like 2%.
Oh, yeah. Billy Ho always comes in at that depressed ownership. I mean, we rarely see Billy Ho come in, as chalk anywhere. So you are going to get the depressed ownership. Current form is there. Like par 5 scoring is there. All the stats are there. It's just one of those gut feelings that I have that I just don't want to play Billy Ho.
Joel Dahman or Harold Varner III? I would go with. I like them both. I'd prefer Harold Varner.
Yeah, Harold Varner. Yeah.
Frank asks, what do you think about the $7,100 range? Feels like good value to build rosters and stack Fleetwood and Neiman. Neiman's going to be super highly owned, but if you use Fleetwood in a stack with Neiman, you can alleviate a lot of ownership and duplication concerns in that $7,100 range. We already talked about a lot of the chalk down there. Fleetwood basically takes a lot of that away for you, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we always talk, if you want to box out a ton of ownership, start your teams at Fleetwood. And again, these
or Sergio.
Or Sergio. Yeah. You could have like a full ownership fade lineup with some really good players. So again, Burgoon, HV3, Sam Ryder, a lot of these guys are in that 71, that low 7K range that you feel more comfortable rostering in most weeks. So yeah, I'm fine with that.
Dahman or Mitchell?
Mitchell.
I like Mitchell too.
Yeah.
I always like my boy Killa Keith.
Yeah. He hits the ball a mile.
Yeah, he can't putt though. Putting is somewhat problematic for one Mr. Keith Mitchell.
Yeah, but it's like we talked about. Lingmerth's not going to lead the tournament in distance, right?
Yeah.
But someone like Mitchell can potentially come top 10 in strokes gained putting in this tournament. So you're not too worried about that.
Who will be the one big name who has the British Open hangover? Historically speaking, there's never any here.
Yeah, which is where I don't know why, because we do see that. I mean, Fleetwood maybe, but even then, that's just a guess because we haven't seen any correlation.
I'm not factoring that in whatsoever.
No, me neither. No.
Like Jason Day comes over after a Monday finish the British Open, wins. Bubba plays this event every year, plays pretty well. Dustin plays this event every year.
Snedeker in 2013.
Snedeker, Kuchar plays every single year.
Hoffman.
Yeah, so, these guys all play the British Open and come over, and they're the guys at the top of the leaderboard.
Must be something in the water over there, Canada.
Listen, this is also a really easy course.
Yeah, that's true.
So really good players tend to pick it apart.
Yeah.
Next one. Hey, Pat, fade DJ or Brooks? Left up to my own... If you're going to make a stance like that at the top, fading DJ is probably the way to go. I think it's more risky to fade DJ in this situation. However, Dustin's going to come in as either the highest owned, second highest owned, or third highest owned guy. So if you do the full fade on DJ, you're getting rid of like 23% of lineups right there if he misses the cut. Wish I had followed that advice last week. Would have been much better for my overall ROI, or negative ROI, as you would say. But Brooks is just coming in at lower ownership, so if you're really going to make a stance and you're torn between the two, just make it Dustin.
Yeah, I mean, exactly right. That's why splitting hairs is obviously DJ is he's ranked better, he's a better player right now, I think, in terms of where he's finishing. And I think Rick, how do you pronounce his last name?
Rick Gaiman?
Yeah, Rick Gaiman. He put out something on Twitter when the show wasn't going on because the pricing wasn't out. The 5+ times that DJ has been priced up there at 11.5 or above that.
He's won?
He's won. He's got a second, a third, and like his 2 worst finishes are 16th. So what you're fading are those statistics of that return at his price.
Yeah, I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
but
me neither.
I understand why people would.
Yeah.
So this one is from Frank. What are your thoughts on a Brooks regression? I don't know what he's regressing from.
I don't think so. I mean, he didn't do too well at the British Open, but he was fine. So I don't think there's a regression there at all.
Let's just see. Let's go look into his stats, see what Brooks is up to here.
I mean, #1 in DK points over the last.
#1 in DK points.
Yeah.
Listen, he's always a good putter. He always gains a ton of strokes off the tee. When he was injured, he didn't.
Exactly.
So yeah, no. Listen, I think Brooks is fine.
Yeah, he's fine.
I just don't know what he's regressing back from because the putting has been above par, but like he's 3rd in strokes gained putting over the past 24 rounds. However, one of those was like an 8-stroke putting week gained, and like the rest of them are like 1.5, 1.5, 1.5. He just does that every single week. Like you're not banking ever on Brooks coming out and just being a terrible putter.
Yeah, if you want to pick something apart with Brooks, it's maybe his
approach.
Yeah, maybe his approach. But even then, if he's hitting wedges in, like these guys are pretty good from that distance. So I'm not too worried about him.
Are you playing either Hunter Mahan or T Dunks on DK, or either worth a bet? I'm not playing either, so.
I'm playing some T Dunks.
You're playing some Dunks? He doesn't have the distance that I want to see out of like that range of guys for me.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like, I tried to pivot a little bit off of JJ Spawn and Poston. I think these guys are coming in too higher owned for me, just a little bit. I like JJ Spawn more than Poston, but T Dunks is a pivot that I like. I like his ability to get, obviously, greens in regulation, so.
Chris Jacobs says, any love for O'Hare, Swafford, or Silverman? All are popping in my fantasy national model. The answer to that would be no.
Ugh. No, none of those guys.
It just seems like I get Swafford like skill-wise, like he just hasn't been good in a while.
No.
But in terms of like O'Hare and Silverman, obviously you weighted like accuracy and didn't weight distance a lot. That's why those guys would be popping up in my, at least if I'm trying to reverse engineer how this model would look.
Right.
Maybe it's like a mixed condition. Maybe in certain conditions they play really well on these courses, but they are not the prototypical type of player that I want to see.
I mean, yeah, O'Hare, I'm just looking back at on Fantasy National, 4 straight missed cuts from O'Hare. I think he came in 2nd at the Valero, and that's about it. So an API, I think he did pretty well, top 10, but I'm not playing any of those guys. No way.
Kevin Tway, yes or no?
No.
No for me too. Go full Keegan. Full Keegan might be a bit much. You never want to go full Keegan. A little bit of Keegan probably works though.
No, I'm not.
You're not using Keegan?
I'm not using Keegan.
I gotta use some Keegan.
I can't. I can't.
All right.
I know that's your brand though. Like Keegan's like he's.
I don't know how he became a part of my brand, but he just did somehow.
Well, I mean, he passes the eye test. He can hit the ball far, and when he's on, he can kill it with his approach. So, but not for me.
Dylan Meyer, we already brought him up. Does course history compared to recent form matter this week? A lot of players here I like have horrible course history. I mean, Johnny Vegas won 2 years in a row, so there must be something to it.
Yeah.
The problem is with course history at Glen Abbey specifically is it's always the same guys that play this tournament, and they're always by far the best guys in the field, so they always tend to do well. So it's weird. Like if you're looking at like Chad Campbell, I don't know about that so much.
No, I mean, like Matt Kuchar, I think over the course of 5 years leads, the tournament in strokes gained total. But like you said, these guys that play here a lot, and a lot of them, top golfers are sponsored by RBC. So we see a lot of the top guys like a DJ, like Hoffman, like even Ian Poulter, for instance, is a guy who always plays this tournament or plays these RBCs. So you're going to see these guys pop in the stat model if you filter it with Jack Nicklaus courses. I will say this, obviously, Nicklaus courses, there is some correlation in terms of how they're set up and how they look. But in terms of course history, I'd rather go current form a little bit more than course history.
On Bubba Hard this week, thoughts? Like a bounce back narrative? Wow, he's my pick to win, so yeah, I like him. Thanks for tuning in, Logan. Thanks for watching the coverage this week. Matt asks, Hunter Mahan in cash? No, thank you.
No way.
Who is Paul playing in the one and done? Paul was not here.
Paul.
I can't shout out to Paul. He's not in studio with me, so I don't know. You're going to have to ask him on Twitter, @PaulShaggy. Currently 7th in the one and done.
Who did he pick last week?
Rory.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which was he was like, it was nice until Justin Rose came back and also tied him, because everyone above him had Justin Rose, and when it looked like Rose was going to make the cut, he was going to like vault up into second because Rory was going to be there, Rose wasn't.
Yeah.
And stupid Rose.
I know. I liked it.
Who are the top bent grass putters? I can easily. You want to look that up?
Sure.
Sort by bent grass past whatever rounds you want to do. We'll get back to that.
Yep.
Can't decide between Mitchell and Dahman. No, the chat just jumped on me. Excellent. Can't decide between Mitchell or Dahman. Everyone seems to like both of them, but can only fit one. Who should I go with? I prefer Keith Mitchell in this situation.
Yeah, like we talked about earlier, I think Keith Mitchell brings a little more upside. Dahman's a fantastic play, but, well, let me take that back. Dahman's a good play, but in terms of the upside in that range, I'd rather take Mitchell and then get that depressed ownership.
And Dahman, Mitchell comes in with good form, obviously, but Dahman does as well. So when we look back at it, it's the driving distance off the tee. Like Keith Mitchell is going to be inside the top 5 in driving distance. Dahman's not. Not to say that there's a big downside to that, but even when looking at the numbers for Joel Dahman, it's been a lot of approach. He's been able to place it really well, but a 5th, a 2nd, and a 15th his past 3 starts. Listen, he came 15th last week and lost 4 strokes putting. He came 5th to Greenbrier and lost almost 3 strokes putting. They're both good plays. I just happen to prefer Keith Mitchell and his specific skill set at Glen Abbey.
Yeah. Okay, got the putting stats here.
Hit me.
Last 50 rounds, the top goes Koepka, number 1. Patrick Rogers, number 2. Wee Kim. Number 3. Peter Molinari at 4. Summerhays 5. McDowell 6. Harris English 7. Kisner 8. Ben Silverman, saving Silverman, number 9. And Martin Pillar, number 10. DJ is number 12. Wheatcroft, your boy, is number 13. Zach Blair, 14. And Putnam, 15.
There we go. Yeah. Remember when Putnam was a thing like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I remember that. I think Putnam was chalk, though. It wasn't one of those bad chalk.
Poor guy. David said, any love for the Canadian Tour guys? I'm sorry, this is a PGA event. Why would I take minor league golfers when there are professionals in the field, like good guys? Like, well, why? Why are you, like, we outsmart ourselves enough by making stupid plays. Why even make a stupider play?
No, this isn't like the Euro Tour guys before the British. It's not the same. Don't do it.
Jack Jerfy says, I don't understand the Vegas hate. I get he is in bad form. Well, that would be where the hate comes in there, pal. But I get the guy is 7,500, going to be low owned, and has won here 2 years in a row. How is he not a core play? Because he's just been playing so shitty for so long that it's really hard to get behind him. Listen, you want to go with it? Hey, we said the same thing last year, and he won.
Yeah, NYC Punter on Twitter actually tweeted something out saying there's no love for a back-to-back winner at this and then at his odds, but he's not been playing well.
Put it this way, like if you're that big of a fan of course history, then yeah, go absolutely all in on Johnny Vegas. But this is the same mistake that people made with a bad form Daniel Berger at the FedEx St. Jude earlier this year. What happened? He missed the cut.
Yeah.
At least at his price point, like you can get away with him missing the cut. With Berger, you couldn't.
Well, last time someone three-peated, and I can't even remember which time, it was 2011.
Stricker.
Exactly.
Stricker at the John Deere.
Yeah, and I would much rather play a guy like Stricker than a guy like Vegas in that sense. So,
pick 2: Sink, Ryder, Duncan, and Burgoon. I would go with Ryder and Burgoon.
I would go Burgoon. What was the Sink, Ryder,
Duncan, T-Dunks?
Yeah, Burgoon and T-Dunks.
T-Dunks and Burgoon. I like that lineup. Is HV3 a trap this week? I certainly hope not. He is shaping up to be a trap, but I can't get away. I'm getting caught in the trap is the problem.
Well, like we just mentioned it. We outsmart ourselves to say, okay, am I going to fade? Golf is so varying. Yeah, any player could be a trap. Like DJ could be. He was a trap last week. But HV3, like we talked about earlier, we have a price at 7,100. If he is a trap, we're not getting too caught off guard. So,
well, I mean, he's especially good in cash games because sometimes you can play ownership to your advantage in cash games.
Yeah.
So where do you know that he's probably going to come in like 40% in cash games. So if you do take him and he misses the cut, it's not the end of the world. In GPPs, he kills your chance of winning.
Yeah.
In a cash game, he doesn't. So that'd be one way to look at it. Thoughts on Danny Lee and Nick Watney? This is from RH. I like Nick Watney, like I mentioned. Guy bombs it off the tee. Anytime you can get him hitting driver all the time is that's a course where I want to be in partnership with Nick Watney. Danny Lee feels like one of those guys you either play every week or never play because you need to hit him on his random like hot fire week. We never know when that's coming.
Yeah, he kind of has that same like that James Hahn type feel where he could miss the cut 8 straight times and then win. And I never know when to play Danny Lee, so I'm not playing Danny Lee or Watney in that sense. So no for me for each.
Looping Madman says, "Welcome to my neck of the world." Well, I do live like 40 minutes from the course, so I guess technically it'd be my part of the world too.
Yeah.
Any check you love this week? No. Play Wheatcroft over Hot Fire Dylon Meyer? Yes. Do some comparisons. Power? Kim, Malnati, Silverman versus Barber. Well, all those guys are terrible except for Seamus Power, so I'm playing him.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
We're on board with that one.
Yeah.
Shez, good course history, bad recent form. What do I do? Remember the last time Shez review was Mega Chalk, like 2 weeks ago? How'd that work out?
Yeah, not too good.
Shez won here in like 2008.
Shez is another guy. I mean, he was on a burner at the beginning of this year, but again, I can't figure him out. He'll pop in some of these models when you're looking at accuracy and shorter courses. So I'd rather take him on shorter courses where he doesn't have to be forced to bomb it.
How many golfers would you have in the player pool for 5 lineups? I have 16 right now. That seems like way too many.
Oh yeah, 5
10 probably tops.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you're gonna play that few of lineups, you really need to concentrate your core and just almost overlap your lineups. I don't know if I'd play one guy. I mean, you might want to play one guy in all of them, but I would try to cap out at like 80%, but try to play all those guys in like 80% of lineups.
And it sequences out. So if you're playing 20 lineups, obviously you can build that player pool. If you're playing 150. Which I rarely do, if not at all. That can, you can diversify a little bit more, but if you're playing 5, you want to shrink that core.
Jack says, I'm going all in on Fleetwood. Has to be the length and accuracy off the tee seems to be forgotten. Thoughts? I think just compared to the guys he's up against, the length and accuracy, the advantage that he normally has in a lot of these fields, he doesn't have against Dustin or Brooks, is the only thing. I think Fleetwood was a fine play, obviously, and he comes in cheaper than Brooks, but I know why I like DJ and Brooks better, and I think it's the same reasons that everyone does.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if this is just recency bias, but I love Fleetwood when he's in the 9K range.
Me too.
Right? So when he's up there at 10K, you kind of get a little worried because we've seen him miss putts within 5 feet. That's sort of a Fleetwood type thing, and I'm not saying that putting is the only statistic that matters here, but I'd rather see those guys. I'd rather sort of take the narrative of bombers, wedge it in, and do it that way.
Zach says, what are your thoughts on Sam Ryder at 7.1K? Love your videos. Well, I love you, Zachary Phillips. Thank you for the kind words. And if you are watching out there on this live stream, or even after the fact, give the episode a like. Or if you're listening to it on iTunes after the fact, go leave an iTunes review. It goes a long way to help keeping this show free. I like Sam Ryder. Ulrich is another guy. He sold me on old Sammy Ryder. I know Feinberg liked him a lot too. Yep. I've come around a little bit. He's not a max exposure guy for me, but I'm playing enough of him.
Yeah, he's the one guy you're playing current form because we've seen him do well in the last a few months. And so when you look at DK points, he's top 10, greens and reg top 10. So he stats out nicely in my model. I'm not going extremely overweight on Sam Ryder, but if I want to differentiate it, like we talked about earlier, down there that $7,100 range, Sam Ryder's the guy with the Y.
Yeah, T2, T7 last 2 starts. Yes, one is the Barbasol, but they all count. Troy Merritt gets a win out of it.
Yeah. Troy Merritt, I like Troy Merritt. He's a good player.
Better leverage play in a single entry, Bubba or Fleetwood? The better leverage play is Fleetwood. The better play, I think, is Bubba.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's me. Kuchar, Neiman, or Woodland? It's Woodland for me, actually.
Yeah, if you're going ownership, it's Woodland.
I mean, just to play. I'm playing Woodland.
Yeah.
I'm not playing the other 2. I am playing Woodland.
And if you look at his odds like we talked about, I mean, I think he's grossly mispriced.
He's 50-1.
Yeah, so he's the type of guy that we want here. We want these bombers, and he plays a left or right shot off the tee, and a lot of these guys who bomb it far want to control it, so they play that left or right shot. And so I'm not only playing guys who fade the ball if they're righty, but I do like Woodland.
With Molinari turning into a winner, Paul Casey winning and choking away a second, does Kuchar win this week? I mean, all of his wins in his career have come at Pete Dye or Jack Nicklaus courses. This is a Jack Nicklaus course.
Yeah.
So it could happen. I don't think it happens, but it could happen.
He's a guy that I faded in that 9K range just because I obviously have to make a stance. I can't play every single guy up there, and that's a spot that I'm leveraging, right? I'm boxing out that ownership and that potential course history and success. But yeah, he could easily win here because he loves these courses.
Frank, I heard Finau was having back issues. Have you heard anything about that? I heard he had it during the Open Championship. Really seemed to hurt him there.
Yeah, I mean, he had an ankle injury.
He broke his ankle the day before the Masters and came inside the top 10.
Ulrich was fading him just because of that back injury and then the travel. I'm like, come on, like it's the semantics.
Maybe he's just superhuman. Tony
maybe.
Finau.
Yeah, it's a
so no. Do you think Neiman is worth the price?
I think so. I think how he's playing, I don't think he can be lower than where he's at. I think 9K is probably the floor of his pricing. He doesn't scare me because he can obviously use his driver at this course, and that's where we really like him. It's just there's more guys that I'd rather play. Like, I want to play Bubba, I want to play Finau, and I want to play Sergio. So.
Okay. Jordan, do you prefer the old guys like Furyk, Sabbatini, and Sink with decent course history, or the young guns like Champ, Ryder, and Burgoon who are in good form? I always like the good form guys.
Yeah.
I do like Sink better than I like Furyk and Sabbatini, and I do like him better than Champ, but I do like Ryder and Burgoon the best of that bunch.
Yeah, I'm going to go the same way, but I mean, Furyk and Sabs, if you want to do a contrarian to, I guess, the old stack.
Yeah, you could do like Kuchar, Kisner, Snedeker, Horschel, Haas, and Furyk.
In there, the 2012 lineup,
Thoughts on Horschel? We already did that a little bit ago. He's not a bad play and comes in with super low ownership. Not for me, though. Any reason that Tommy Fleetwood's driving distance is poorly rated on Fantasy National? I thought he'd be much higher. Well, it doesn't include Euro stats, and it's driving distance gained, so maybe Tommy does not hit it quite as far as you think.
Yeah, I mean, Tita Green, he's an accurate player. Like, he's good.
He's a lot like Sergio in that way. He has great distance, he has good distance, above average distance, but he also hits it down the middle of the fairway.
Exactly. So, again, with Fleetwood, he's not hitting it like a 275 like Furyk. He's bombing it out there, but he's not bombing it like the DJs, the Woodlands, the Koepkas. Even Sergio can get it out there, but I'd rather get guys even like Holmes. I know I'm mentioning all the guys at the top there, but I'd rather take those guys.
But I mean, when we talk about those guys in particular, those are like bombers.
Yeah.
Like Fleetwood's not keeping up with those guys in terms of driving distance, but you're like, he's above average.
Yeah.
That's all. It's like when people call Spieth a short hitter. Spieth isn't a short hitter.
No, he's shorter.
He's a shorter hitter compared to DJ.
Yeah.
And Fleetwood hits it further than Spieth does, so he's somewhere in between there.
Exactly.
I don't think that like there's a lack of distance concern with Fleetwood at all.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's like a plus like it is for some of the other guys.
And like a guy like Jimmy Walker, you're not taking his distance over his lack of accuracy, right? So like be careful that it's not just distance. I want to sort of qualify this as we're not taking just guys who can bomb it out there, and just because a guy like Walker just sprays it everywhere. So just be careful with that.
Jordan asks, Pat, when making your model on Fantasy National, do you prefer the mixed condition model or going by past course conditions and using that to create your model? I usually like to run just pure stats, just right off the hop, and then include my stat model into my mixed condition model to find out. The ones that I tweet out are just pure stat rankings. That's why I call them the stat rankings.
Oh, well.
They're not like there's no conditions mixed in. There's no, like I will bake in recent form. I will bake in a little bit of course history, a lot more of recent form over course history, but those things always go into my mixed condition model along with my stat rankings in particular. And then I can kind of pick and choose, like courses over from 7,200 yards to 7,400 yards that are par 72s. Make sure that get put in the model for me. Bent grass putting will be like 5%. So I like to mix all those things in while doing it.
Yeah, and it's a holistic approach, right? I mean, you and I, you probably do the same thing. Power rankings, right? Ball striking, tee to green, some of these core stats that all guys need to have. So you want to see that. I have some ancillary stats that I put at 0% weight. So I
just to look at.
Just to look at, and then you have the mixed model, which brings in that stuff, so you don't have to look at 40 different. That's the great thing about Fantasy National. You don't have to have 40 different tabs open. You can bake in your ranking into the mixed model just to give you that holistic approach. So
Kuchar ownership, I believe I had him around 9%, but I can go look up to see what the actual projection says. What do you think? 9%, 10%?
I just cheated and looked. He's 13%.
He's 13%?
Yeah. But I mean, again, that's a projection. I think in terms of what people are generating the lineups, it's around that 13, 14%. But I honestly think he's going to come lower than that because I think guys will want to play the Finaus, the guys will want to play Bubba's right at that range, and the Niemans, right? So Kuchar is kind of in that middle spot where he might, at that 9K range, you might see a more level ownership playing field. So,
do you have the ownership page open?
I do.
Johnny Vegas ownership.
Any guesses?
I'm going to say like 7%, although I think he'll come in higher than he will on Fantasy National.
6.7%, so yeah, 7%.
I think most people that use the site are people that don't really buy into the course history narrative, as opposed to like your public at large.
Yeah.
So I bet you he ends up at like somewhere between 8 and 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any love for Ollie?
No.
Not so much for me. I actually had a little bit of interest, and then I went and looked to see what he was doing off the tee, and he's just brutal off the tee. So big pass on Ollie on that one. Locks to make the cut. There are no such things, so I'm not even going to read the names. Am I a fool for playing JT Poston? I don't think so. I'm not using him, but
Yeah.
people can always get behind JT Poston.
Yeah, I mean, I like Poston. I think he's right there. He's at the same price as Spawn and some of these other guys at 7,100. So I do like him. I like his game, but if you want to fade him, yeah, fine. That's fantastic because there's other guys down there. But I'm playing him.
DJ Dahman and Dylan Meyer versus Bubba Neiman and Lovelady in GPPs. I think I like that Bubba Neiman Lovelady a little bit more. Like the higher end is so much higher.
Yeah, same.
Do you know what the range of approaches from most of the bombers will come from? I've been looking mostly 125 to 150. That's almost an impossible thing to go to actually search for. You'd have to go player by player and try to find it. I can tell you by course breakdown where the majority of approaches in general come from, but lumping in bombers away from someone else is just a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, because
not super automated.
Yeah.
Right now, the majority of approaches this week will come from 125 to 175. So yeah, 125 to 150 is probably where the bombers are coming in from.
Yeah.
Next question. Ricky Barnes any good? He was good enough for a first round leader bet for me. He's out real early.
Oh man, he showed up in my mixed model, like top 15, and I
was like, no.
No. I was like, I can't. No.
David. The only one I can see having a British Open hangover is Kisner, finishing second, emotional drain, not physical. I don't understand how people can project that onto people.
No.
We don't know, so how can you factor it in?
I don't even know my own emotions.
I know.
How can you figure out someone else's? No, I think he's fine. Look, if he misses the cut, then you're gonna don't tell yourself that there is that because the quantitative data says that there isn't. So just be careful with that.
Is Kisner a nice GPP play? Not in any of my lineups yet. That's from Matt Jones. I am using him. I just saw him come in at like 2%. I was like, he's at least worth the gamble.
Yeah,
because he's good.
Yeah. And like we've seen it. We've seen him pop at some of these difficult tournaments, right? The match play he popped, right? Again, that was a Pete Dye design. And whenever you see a Dye course, you play Kisner.
Yeah, but he's played well at API in the past, which is a longer par 72.
Right.
And listen, like I said, yes, you can use the fact that he just came second in a major against him, but I would like to use that as a positive for him. Maybe he's getting it back going a little bit.
I hope so. I like his.
I like his too. Thoughts on Woodland's form? He's getting better, which is good to see.
Yeah.
And I like him at this course. I think it is a good skill set fix for him.
Yeah, there was a stretch where he played really bad after he won at Phoenix, but yeah, I think he's playing better. He's the type of golfer that we want here.
Did we discuss Poulter yet? We have not. Poulter putted the lights out at this tournament last year and made this big run on the final day, and that's how he ended up with the good finish. Now, Poulter's a fine player. Struggled a little bit, Snedeker-esque and Henley-esque at last week's Open Championship. But in that range, it seems like Poulter and Kisner and Walker are the three guys that no one is going to own. And I don't know if I can still pull the trigger. I'd rather use Kisner.
Yeah, and I'd rather go down a couple hundred for JB.
Or Charlie.
Or Charlie, exactly. So it's hard because you're fading a guy that if you are playing course history, if you are playing that narrative, then he does well. But he's played a lot of tournaments too, so potentially fatigue. I'm not factoring that in. I'm just factoring that I'd rather play guys around him more.
Comments on Kevin Tway are concerning. Do you think a pivot to Lovemark is a good play? Lovemark's probably going to be higher owned. I'm not using either of them.
I'm using Lovemark, but you have to use about 10 to 15% of Lovemark because he's going to be there.
Yeah, he's going to be pretty highly owned. I don't know. Anytime people are on Jamie Lovemark, I don't like using him.
And every time he's at that price range, just like
he looks like a good price.
Yeah, exactly.
This is going to be the time for Jamie Lovemark. It just never works out. No one's playing Patrick Rogers this week because Patrick Rogers also works the same way.
Yeah. That
when people are on him, awful.
Yeah.
When people are off of him, hey, the putter's come alive for Patrick. And like you said, he rated really highly on that Bentgrass model.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm part of the masses that will play Lovemark. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Sung Kang or Wagner? How about neither?
Neither for me.
Okay. Poker Coach Ryan says, if you were to play 20 lineups, how many would include Dustin Johnson? Probably 8.
Yeah, I have 10 just because.
10?
Yeah, I mean I'm trying to be massively overweight on him.
I actually scaled back on DJ a little bit because I went massively overweight on Bubba.
Yeah.
So I'm playing like 50% Bubba. Therefore, I couldn't play 50% DJ.
Right.
Just didn't work out with the way
I'm just opposite, yeah.
Neiman and Cash, not for me.
Nope.
In late, Kuchar, NSYNC, or Champ and Bubba. I would actually go Champ and Bubba there.
Same here. Yeah.
Any love for Barber or Scott Brown? No. Not for me, at least.
I mean, Barber's some love, but not Scott Brown.
Any particular weather draws this week? It does look like there's going to be less wind, and it's going to be drier in the morning on Thursday. And then there's going to be thunder showers, so it might actually interrupt play.
Yeah.
Which means all the draws are thrown completely out of whack.
Right, exactly. And it's not so much as what we saw last week at Carnoustie.
I will say that, like, I target for first-round leaders, I targeted the guys coming out right out of the gate.
Yeah, yeah.
And that could be the wrong move, because if guys get taken off the course and it does soften up and they have to like wait 2 hours and come back out to a soggy course with no like wind or anything, now you're looking great.
Yeah.
But that's hard to really game.
That's hard to gauge, yeah.
So I'm not actually playing any weather draws this week. If you wanted to, I do think that AM PM is probably the move. Although if it gets too delayed, some of these AM guys might have to finish on Saturday morning.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
Yeah, you're split. It's no way. That's too much, I think. So I'm not playing any weather draws.
Any love for the Gooch as a pivot? Usually I do, but
I do like the Gooch, but that sounded
if his
weird,
name wasn't the Gooch, I wouldn't like him as much.
Yeah. No love for me.
How disappointing is Troy Merritt going to be this week? I suppose that depends on how much faith you put in Troy Merritt.
I mean, he's got a fantastic beard. That thing is just deep, but no love for. Again, I like Troy Merritt as a player, but you know, I'm not playing him this week.
No, there's too many other really good guys right around him. And someone asked me earlier this week, like, how do you consider players coming off of a win? I generally think for like a top-end player, it's good. That's great for him.
Yeah.
But I feel like for a lot of these, like, especially lower-end players, not to say that Troy Merritt's bad, but he's not an elite player by any means, or even a really strong player on tour week to week to week, that they've hit their peak. Like, that was them putting it all together. It's hard for that level of talent to sustain itself over time. Everything broke their way to get the win. It's just hard to repeat that.
Right, like a Koepka you see with his disposition, and Patrick Reed.
And even with someone like Molinari now, who's won the 3 times. Like, we always joke that, like, hey, Molinari can't win, Molinari can't win. It's funny, but you always know he was a good player.
Yeah.
Like, he's not on Troy Merritt's level.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So unless this is a big step up for Troy Merritt, I wouldn't expect too much.
No.
Question, has there been any other running back? Fuck off. Oscar, football in a golf chat. How dare you? Why are you so sure about On this week? I don't think I'm super sure about On, but I think he's like $1,000 underpriced. Yeah. And when you just actually look at actual talent from what we've seen over a longer sample, Ben On outclasses everyone else in this area.
Right.
That's why you go with him.
Exactly.
And he bombs it.
He bombs it. That's just going to be the other thing I had. Double bird threw me off a little bit there. But yeah, I like Benny On. We haven't talked about your boy Si Woo yet, but he's a guy. You want these players who can, you know, especially if you're playing GPPs, you want these high floor type guys. Ben On could easily miss the cut. We've seen it before.
Oh, yeah.
But I like him.
Yeah, I like him too.
Yeah.
Great ball striker. Yeah. Is Harkins invisible? I don't know about that. Si Woo! Si Woo, just about this week, no DraftKings for me.
Right, exactly.
It's been too painful. Although he did make the cut at the Open.
Yeah, you're just in the corner shivering.
Shaking up. So, oh no, he's only 2 up on the cut with 3 holes to go. I know how the story turns out.
No, I like Si Woo when he's like sub 7K.
Listen, Si Woo is always a good GPP play because the upside is always so high, but where his betting odds are 125 to 1, it's just easier to bet him than have him. The worst part would be using Si Woo and have 5 of 6, and Si Woo is the guy who let you down. When you know with 125 to 1, especially if you take some sort of each way on that he can hit that and just pay for 125 times your week.
Exactly.
The upside on him now in the betting market is much better than the risk of playing him on DraftKings, I think at least.
Yep.
How much does Keegan win by? Well, I mean, I just hope he comes second. Second to Lonto.
Yeah.
Lonto at 350 to 1. That's where we're going here.
Yeah, Lonto, I mean, talk about birdie or, I mean, this guy's either birdies or bogeys. So Lonto's, yeah, we hope so.
Ass wagon in GPPs. Only at par 70s for me. I don't like him at par 72s.
No ass wagon. Nope.
No distance off the tee. Plays really well on par 3s, but cannot get it going on the par 5, so that's a bit tough.
No.
Any left for Abraham, the sexy Mexi answer? I like to refer to him as the Allen Iverson of golf. However, he was at one of the last cuts. Ulrich actually talked me out of him because the distance off the tee isn't that great. But the ball striking's been there. He scores really well on those shorter par 4s. And I can't get this guy right. Yeah. Every time I'm off of him, he's like T2. Every time I play him, miscut.
And he's 7,400. I mean, you have a little bit higher there.
He's actually a good pivot in that range off all those chalk guys.
Right. I'd rather, though, take Ryan Armour a little bit more.
Ryan Armour?
I mean, yes, he doesn't fit that narrative of bombing it off the tee, but he's a guy that in current form, look, he's #1 in par 4. in the last 24, that par 4 distance range of the last 24 rounds. So I'm looking at that more so, and yes, I have to pay $100 more for a guy like Ryan Armour, but no answer for me, and no pun intended.
All right, let's try to get out of here.
Yep.
We can try to hit the hour mark at 2:30. So if you have any final questions, we'll try to rapid fire them before we get them in. Again, give the episode a like. Please, it does go a long way, and if you're listening, please leave an iTunes review, Stitcher review, whatever it is. 5 stars, preferably. No 1-star stuff. That's just mean. Why would you want to listen to a show this far into it? What are you, like 55 minutes into the show? Be like, I hate this show so much that I have to actively get out of my way to give it a bad review. You've wasted 55 minutes of my life.
Yeah, it takes you a second to do the 1-star, but you watch the show for 55 minutes.
Yeah. Jeff Becker says, is $40 and too much on? That doesn't even make any sense. DJ and Finau, Core, or Brooks and Bubba? I guess Brooks and Bubba.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the other way just because I have that as my core. But the Brooks and Bubba, that's a nice stack. I don't mind that.
I just like Bubba so much.
Yeah, he's a good play.
I actually bet Sergio. Sergio dropped a 40 on this book Ulrich sent me.
Yeah.
I was just like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Game on for, he's the same odds as Cameron Champ.
He's the only guy I'd rather see win than a guy like Finau because of what it's going to mean to people who are on
Sergio?
Yeah.
It's all just a pure talent slide. Like, we talk about, like, ownership, and I think we do overrate it a lot sometimes.
Yeah.
However, when you get a talent like that at such low ownership, like you said again, it's the form that scares everyone. That's why no one is taking him. But if we're just talking about, like, pure talent-wise, like, who's a better player, Sergio or Finau?
Sergio.
It's Sergio.
Yeah.
It might not be for long, but I mean, at least I have 15 years of Sergio, the guy that won the Masters last year, and he's going through a bad 3-month stretch.
Yeah, maybe he's thing up.
We all liked him in February and March because he was ball striking and just couldn't putt.
Right.
And then his whole game went away, and then he turns in like a decent performance on the Euro Tour. Everyone's back on him. Misses the cut at Carnoustie. A lot of guys missed the cut at Carnoustie.
Yeah.
So, Harkins or Gomez? Neither.
I'm taking Fabian.
All right.
Yeah.
Any worries on Fleetwood's first go-around at this track? This is from Ross Watson. I don't know.
No. I mean...
It's an easy track.
Right. I mean, before Vegas won, I don't think he played either this course or played it well, so I don't think that has any correlation.
20 Limes, would you split your core 50-50 to start with DJ and Bubba or more Bubba? I think 50-50, if that's the way that you want to play it, is the way to go. I decided I wanted to use a bit of Brooks, so I had to cut down on some DJ shares there. I wanted to play a little bit of Finau and Sergio, so I had to divvy up. So instead of going 50-50, I think I went 40% 40% Bubba, and I ended up going like 20-20 DJ and Koepka, 10% Finau, and like 20% Sergio.
Yeah, I just went heavy on Finau, so I took it, down that 10K range, and I went pretty heavy on DJ. So that's my stack.
It's strange. Like the past few tournaments, I've had a lot of success in the middle range, like the $7,000 range, and I have been kind of spreading it out a little bit there and really concentrating my core at the top and just missing on all the top guys and hitting all the $7,000 guys. So this week, I'm going to change my approach a little bit and spread out the top end a little bit more because we've seen good players play really well at this tournament before. So if one of them misses, I don't want to get caught with my pants down like I did with DJ last week. And in the $7,000 area, I'm feeling good about that range. So I've concentrated my core down there a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it could happen, right? The cut equity at the top obviously is higher than the guys in the middle. But, like you said, in these types of tournaments, look, it's golf. We talk about this all the time. It's the most variant game out there, especially when you're talking about what we're, trying to pick some guys who are going to do well. So I like the guys at the top. I'm doing what you did last week and probably going to get caught my pants down. So I got DJ at heavy ownership.
It's the better way to do it.
Yeah. But
makes it for more fun. You get weekends off if it goes poorly.
Exactly.
Nicholas, can Scott Stallings play well here? His approach game has been on. Not been on. Been on. Bad course history. I mean, I can't do the Scott Stallings.
No Stallings.
Big Norm or DJ?
That's not a serious question.
Technologist55, are you quitting golf broadcasts? I'm not quite sure what he's asking there. Like, am I quitting watching them? I don't think so.
No.
I need to do it for my
maybe
job.
the cut sweat? Maybe that's potentially what he's talking about?
I'm not doing the cut sweat for the PGA Championship because I'll be at the Fantasy Baseball World Championship. I'm just not around.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a great watch, so everyone out there watch it, but I don't know what that question was.
Any love for Shane Lowry? Not for me.
No, not for me.
Final one. Oscar. Is this the final one? Yes, it is the final one. 2 out of 3 at $7,100. Burgoon, Ryder, or Varner? I'll go Burgoon and Varner.
Same here.
Boom. Oh, dude, we flew right through the questions today.
Yeah, it was good. Usually we don't do 2 hours like the Open Championship.
Yeah, listen,
Major's different.
Not only was the British Open one 2 hours long, it was full of bad advice from me. So I'm sure that's why there are fewer questions this time around. Not only is there less interest in the Canadian Open, but people are so mad after last week.
I mean, this is one of the oldest Opens, though.
Third oldest Open championship in the world.
So watch it. This is going to be a good one. I'm excited.
It used to be a part of the, I guess it's called like the Open Grand Slam. Arnold Palmer is the last player to win it. You win the U.S. Open, British Open, and Canadian Open all in the same year. The three oldest Opens.
Let's get it back.
I would like to. Tiger made a run at it in 2000. I don't think he won the U.S. Open though.
That was the year he hit that amazing shot from the bunker, right over the water.
Yeah, the 6-iron over the bunker on 18. It's like the only hole people remember at Glen Abbey.
Yeah.
Do you know who he beat?
I want to say Hal Sutton, but it's not it.
It wasn't. It was Grant Waite.
Oh, who the hell is that?
Exactly. Beat Grant. Tiger stormed back on Grant Waite. That's one of the Tiger problems right now, is that when he needs to storm back to win, like even like Molinari and even like Chappell and like Rory and Rose, like these guys are good.
Yeah.
Like Tiger used to just beat absolute bums.
Yeah. Once he held that outright lead, we saw him just regress back to the field, and it was sad because I think all of us,
everyone was rooting for Tiger.
Every single person was
rooting for Tiger. You didn't root for Tiger, you got problems.
Yeah, exactly. So, but again, this is exciting. We've seen guys, like you said, do well here. Good guys do well. So, I mean, if a Canadian can win, more to it. But Mike Weir, I don't know about that, Axe.
Yeah, that's rough treading, Axe. Mike Weir, please. You got a better chance of being picked up in an Uber by Mike Weir than him making the cut.
Oh, man.
All right, there's a few more questions here, actually. Low owned with the bomber narrative, Sergio or old man Stricker? I'd rather go Sergio.
Yep, Sergio.
Stars and Scrubs? Yeah. I think Stars and Scrubs is the move here. British was brutal. Thanks, Glenn. You piece of shit. Nick, JB Holmes and Power are very similar. Great off the tee, but bad at approach lately. Will there be positive strokes gain TTG anyway? I don't know what TTG is, but
T2 green.
Yeah, usually use the
number 2,
just to differentiate it. I like Holmes on these tracks where par 5s play a bit more and the wedge game can come more into play for him. It's one of the reasons I like him so much at Travelers. I think that can apply this weekend. Seamus is all about putting. Like, he's sort of kind of the opposite. Like, he just putts so well on a consistent basis. And I feel like he's being lost in the shuffle a little bit this week.
Yeah. I mean, JB, he gains so much strokes tee to green. It's just the putter. So if the putter comes back to normal just a little bit, that's why we like JB.
Oh, this guy clarifies. What I meant is, are you quitting doing golf shows? No, I'm not quitting doing golf shows. I'm just off next Monday and Tuesday, so I'm not doing golf shows.
He's not a quitter.
I'm not doing it from vacation. I will have shows coming out.
Yeah.
Just not live golf shows because I'm away. Yeah. You have some football shows.
That's nice.
And then you can ask your football questions in there instead of the golf chat. Keep it together. I don't cheer for Tiger. What's wrong with you?
God, I think this is an opportune moment. Give your.
Yeah, that is a pure give your head a shake, pal.
There we go.
Give it a break.
There we go.
Top 3 bombers to use. You'll have to log on to Fantasy National.
There we go.
For that one. If you want to become a member today, if you subscribe to the month-long membership right now, you get this week. You get the WGC, you get the PGA Championship, the Wyndham, and leg 1 of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Because the month, you get 5 tournaments in here. That's quite the deal you want to get in right now.
I mean, you got to use it.
And you get to you get to figure out how to use it too.
Yeah,
which is really nice.
It's a no-brainer. Like, use it, and then you earn the money. I mean, you talk about it all the time. How much people have won by using it. I mean, it's a fantastic site.
It's worked out really well for people.
Yeah.
No guarantee.
Not me.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
It even worked out well for me.
Well,
I had a big win by using
an RBC.
Yeah. Maybe that's the correlation.
Yeah,
Anything with RBC in the title, I'm just going to win 20K.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. That's the one good thing. Like, when I think about like how bad the British Open was, I had a really bad John Deere too. I've never been up this much in a single year. Like, I could lose all of my money the rest of the year. I'd still end up way more than I would in any other year.
There should be a plaque, a Satoshi Kodaira plaque for you.
There should be, but I mean, Al Zeidenfeld talked about this a lot on my DraftKings show, football-wise, last year. He's like, I play football to hit one big one every year. And if I hit it, I pay for 3 years. If not, then I lost. And that's why you need to sort of approach GPPs. You're going to lose. Only so many people can win.
Right, exactly. In any gaming aspect, you are going to lose more than you win.
Yeah,
that's why.
Listen, if you don't want to lose a lot, stick to playing the $50 double ups.
Yep, exactly.
And that way you periodically build your bankroll. But if you're serious about winning a GPP, it takes time. It takes breaks to go your way.
Yeah.
And that's why we say concentrate that core, that if you do have the guys that do hit that week, give yourself as many shots as possible with it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then you also have to be ready to, have like a DJ last week miss the cut. You have to weather those storms, because when that big hit comes through and you're true to your method and to your madness, then I mean, that's why we get an RBC heritage, and Satoshi Kodaira. That's why these guys and these milli makers do so well, because they're sticking to their game plan. So if that's the case,
or at least in the last two, they're just riding the chalk and it's working out.
Yeah, I was listening to Going for the Green, which is a great podcast, and I think they were mentioning one guy missed out on the milli because Tiger missed
the putt.
Oh my
The guy who came sixth. Tiger missed the putt, took him out of $1 million.
But that's what you have. You have to be able to weather those storms if you want to keep on playing, because when you do, it's fantastic when you hit.
All right,
so.
pimp your wares, your Twitters, your videos, your articles.
Yeah, Reid T. Fowler everywhere, on the Twitter machine, on the Google machine, on the blog machines, everywhere. So Reid T. Fowler, that's where it is.
This guy says he was rooting for Molinari and not Tiger. Good God.
Can you
imagine living that life? What a sad human you are. Anyway, I'm not a sad human. I'm Pat Mayo. And you can follow me on Twitter at @ThePME. Same as Instagram, Facebook.com, where my betting cheat sheet is up right now. My DK cheat sheet and full write-up for the tournament, both up on DKPlaybook.com. Check out yesterday's show with Jeff Ulrich, Monday's show with Jeff Feinberg, and there's going to be shows for later in the week, mainly football. Challenge recap coming up if I can get back. I noticed my flight back to Toronto has been canceled for tonight, so I'm sleeping on the floor here in the studio. Maybe I can just do live streams all night. Take all the questions you got. If not, football early next week. Challenge should be coming up on Friday. So I'm going away for a bit, so don't hit me up on Twitter or anything like that. And just remember, no shows next week. If you're a real fan of the show, don't be like, I watch all the time. Where's the show? I've mentioned it 3 times now, so you should know, all right? But anyway, thank you for tuning in to the live stream. Thank you for your questions. Good luck at the Canadian Open. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!